talk about cholesterol and other fats in your bloodstream. This is lesson 3 or module 3 of the PAD diet orientation with world renowned diabetes reversal doctor, Dr. Michael Dansinger with diabetesreversalpartners.com. Dr. Dansinger, gosh, everyone who has vascular and cardiovascular disease, they hear about cholesterol and fat nonstop. But why? I know that's a rhetorical question, but why is this so important?
It's a great topic. Thank you, Kim. I'm glad we get to talk about this today. Cholesterol clogs the arteries, but what I just said there is an oversimplification of that. And so learning about what that really means is important. So, everyone's heard about cholesterol and cholesterol medicines and statins and all that, but let's get a little bit more sophisticated so that when you have conversations with your healthcare team about cholesterol and blood fats, that you can think it through at a sophisticated rather than at a basic level. That's what this presentation is all about.
Yep, it's for educational and informational purposes only to help you prepare for your appointments with your doctor and have a more productive and satisfying discussion. And this is a guide to understanding cholesterol and other fats in your blood. We're going to start with why your blood fats matter.
Yeah, they matter a lot. So if you want to take care of your arteries, your heart, your body, you need to understand cholesterol and other blood fats. So cholesterol and fats in the blood are one of the causes of ongoing artery damage. Cholesterol can deposit inside arteries and form blockages gradually over many years. So let's look deeper at each type of blood fat so you understand what your numbers really mean.
Okay, 10 types of blood fats, 10 types. Wow.
We're going to cover a lot in this presentation. It's not a long presentation, but it's an important one. And we're going to talk about cholesterol particles, LDL particles, small dense particles, LP little a, HDL, large HDL, triglycerides, and levels of saturated, unsaturated, and omega-3 fats in your blood.
I think the one thing that first stands out to me is just the fact that there are small particles and large particles. So I'm curious about the difference that we're going to hear about in just a few moments.
Yeah. So cholesterol containing particles, cholesterol is inside of little microscopic particles called lipoprotein. Each of these might think of it as a little sphere carrying a few thousand cholesterol molecules. And your total cholesterol number is the combined amount of cholesterol inside all these little particles. So the most important is LDL particles. That means low density particles. These carry cholesterol made by your liver or absorbed by your intestine, and they deliver the cholesterol to cells. And the cells need cholesterol to make membranes and hormones and other uses. Unfortunately, here's the bad news, certain LDL particles lodge inside the artery walls, causing damage, which accumulates gradually over decades. And this is the LDL bad cholesterol particles that sneak into the artery wall. The worst of those LDL particles are the tiniest ones. The smaller LDL particles do more damage to your arteries than the large LDL particles. So obesity or diets high in sugar and starch creates lots of these super bad small dense LDL particles. So for example, in healthy people, only about 20 or 25% of your LDL cholesterol comes from the small dense particles. But in some people with abdominal obesity or insulin resistance or diabetes, sometimes we see up to 50% of the LDL particles are these small dense ones. And so it is possible to look to order specialized blood testing to look at how much of the LDL is carried in the small dense particles. So you can ask your doctor about that.
And is it true? I was told when my dad was diagnosed and we had the discussion with his dietitian who has her doctorate, and she was saying that the small dense LDL the particles are the ones that become oxidized by trans fats and free radicals, and at that point they can eke into damaged areas in the artery walls and push them out.
Yes, Kim,
Yes.
that's an important point. It's the small, dense LDL particles that are especially susceptible to oxidation, and it's that oxidized LDL that's most likely, that's the biggest part of the problem. Absolutely.
Oh, here's
So
another
ne
big one.
Yeah, next, let's talk about LP little a particles. So that's how that's pronounced, LP little a. These particles are similar to the small dense LDL. They're not identical, but they're very similar. And they stick to the arteries and damage them gradually, just like the small dense LDL particles do. And about 20% of the population has high levels of LP little a. This is determined by genetics, not by diet or exercise, and it can run in families. So there's some families that have premature heart disease because they're genetically predisposed to high levels of LP little a. And so many experts recommend getting your LP little a tested at least once in your lifetime. And drug companies are all working on getting a treatment to lower LDL particles. And so far, we haven't had one that's been approved for use in clinical practice. If you'd have asked me 5 years ago, I would have predicted that we would have had one by now, but maybe next year, we'll see.
We're getting there. We do have some members of our network that are part of the Eli Lilly trial. That is one of the many companies that are working on this.
Yes.
There's also a company called Liposorber that has almost a dialysis style of blood
Hmm.
cleansing device that they use for LP little a. It's typically used in more advanced stage heart disease and vascular patients. We
Yeah.
even saw a case where a peripheral artery disease patient that was being treated at USC in Southern California. He had wounds on his feet. He had no option but amputation. And he was able to achieve wound healing and keep his leg after using the liposorber product, where they go in and they clean out. They can actually isolate those LP little a particles and clean them out. Now, of course, if it's a genetic predisposition to them, right? It's not permanent. And so they do seem to come back according to the company Liposorber, but
Yeah.
at least it's something that they can do regularly in those extreme cases to help improve the prognosis for those advanced stage patients.
That's really great information. You know, as a lifestyle doctor, it's been a point of frustration for me that I haven't ever been able to make a dent in these LDL, LP little a levels. You know, I can help people with their cholesterol, but not that one because it's genetic. So let's talk about HDL particles. So HDL stands for the high density lipoprotein particles. Think of them as the opposite of LDL. So they carry cholesterol back to the liver for removal. And this is what people mean by good cholesterol. They're talking about the cholesterol that's carried in the HDL particles. So higher HDL is linked to lower risk of vascular disease, heart disease, and stroke.
These are the good particles, right? And
These
and
are,
this
yeah,
is And this is where you talk about the cholesterol reabsorption issue that people have, the HDL particles. They bring the LDL particles into the liver and, for removal and excretion. And um, if they're not excreting, they can get reabsorbed right back in the body.
yeah, yes, that's right. And so one of the worst things for your HDL is smoking. And one of the best things for your HDL is eating right and exercising.
So large
So
HDL
yeah,
particles.
so large HDL particles, think of it this way. If HDL particles are the heroes, large HDL particles are the superheroes. These are my favorite um, particle in the blood. So when it comes to HDL particles, bigger is better. And large HDL particles are the most effective at clearing excess cholesterol. So unfortunately, obesity plus a diet high in refined sugar and starch depletes your large HDL particles, making them less effective. And just as I said earlier, it's possible to ask your doctor about measuring small, dense LDL. You can also measure large HDL particles
Oh, wow.
in the blood.
It's amazing. Okay, triglycerides, because there's hypercholesterolemia, but then there's also hypertriglyceridemia,
Yeah.
and they're different.
Exactly. So triglycerides is just another type of unhealthy fat in the blood. It's not the same as cholesterol. It's just another type of unhealthy fat in the blood. And high levels often come from excess calories, obesity, alcohol raises triglycerides, sugars and starches, and animal fat all raise the triglycerides. A healthy level in the blood is below 150. Many doctors would prefer it under 100. I would always prefer the triglycerides lower the better. So I'm never satisfied with 150 myself. I want to see it under 100. So
And
cutting
what
back
lowers
on
these?
alcohol. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Is it just diet that lowers these, or do the cholesterol drugs also help lower these?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, for example, a statin drug like Lipitor, atorvastatin, really doesn't lower the triglycerides. It lowers the LDL cholesterol, including the small, dense LDL cholesterol. But cutting back on, use lifestyle to fix your triglycerides. So, if you're drinking alcohol, that's an important way to decrease your triglycerides by cutting back or
Mm.
eliminating that. Sugar and starch fuel the triglycerides made by the liver. And so lowering, focusing on protein and vegetables is one of the best way to improve triglycerides. For example, it's not unusual to be able to get your triglycerides from 300 down to 100 just by
Mm.
cleaning up your diet and adding some exercise. There are
Saturated fats.
there are prescription medicines to lower triglycerides. This
Yeah.
is especially helpful for people with triglycerides, around 500 or so. So the brand name Vasipa is a special
Oh,
kind of EPA fat that's been shown to help lower triglycerides. But diet is number one for sure. So let's talk about saturated fats in the blood. So like we were talking about, there's many different types of fat in the blood. It's not just cholesterol, it's not just triglycerides. So saturated fat in the blood comes from excess dietary fat in the diet, from meat and dairy. Obesity also, the fat in your belly leaks into the blood. That's just what the body does. And so a
yeah.
belly fat is mostly saturated fat, and that leaks into the blood, raising the blood level of saturated fat. Fatty liver does that as well. And the saturated fat in the blood inflames the arteries and it delays clearance of the LDL particles. So the saturated fat in the blood makes it harder for your body to get rid of these LDL particles, which clog the arteries. So that's how saturated fats in the blood fuel vascular disease like PAD. And also, the saturated fat in the blood gets into muscles and promotes insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And it's possible to work with your doctor to measure the level of saturated fat in the blood.
Unsaturated. So there's saturated and unsaturated fats in the blood.
Exactly. So unsaturated fats, think of them as healthy fats in the blood. So they can also be measured. You want a high percentage of your blood fats to be unsaturated rather than saturated. So eating healthy fats results in healthy fats in your blood. You are what you eat. This is especially true when it comes to unsaturated fats. And so to do that, you focus on um, um, healthy whole foods
Mm.
sources of healthy fat like olives, olive oil, avocados, nuts, and fish are my favorite sources of unsaturated fat. And we'll talk about seeds as well.
Speaking of fats, omega-3 fats, the good fats.
Yeah, so these are a type of unsaturated fats. These are the most potent of all unsaturated fats. So omega-3 fats come mainly from food or from fish oil supplements. Small fatty fish are the best source. And so that, I mean, that's one of my favorite reasons to eat fish because of the omega-3s that it gives. So animal sources, fish and seafood, are the most potent, effective sources of omega-3. You can also get it from plant foods, like flax oil provides omega-3s. And so for vegetarians, that's the way to go. Or you can take omega-3 supplements. What I love about omega-3s is it helps, it's good for artery health. It helps the arteries relax and rather than be stiff. And omega-3 is important for brain health. The brain is made up of omega-3 fats.
And I actually have to tell you, last night I had a piece of wild salmon with my dad, and I decided to marinate it in some lime juice and strawberry peach unsweetened jelly from a company that's local here called Lala. And then I put it on low heat on the stove and covered it, kind of steamed it a little bit, put it in the oven for about 3 minutes, up to heat about, 300 degrees, put it back on the stove for a second. It was just so buttery and just flaked
Mm,
right off and melted in your mouth. Just saying, I told my dad, I said, if fish tasted like this every night, I would have it every night. So actually, we're going to have some for lunch today as well.
excellent.
It was
I
so
love
good.
it. Thank you for sharing that recipe. I have fish at least 3 days a week, sometimes
Good
5.
for you. Good for you. But it's the wild salmon. Do you vary it at all? I know I vary
Um,
it between halibut, tuna, and salmon.
well, that's a good goal for the months ahead. Most of the fish I eat is salmon or the tuna from the can, and
Okay.
um, a real favorite of mine is swordfish. I have that about once a week. I mean, once a year. If I'm splurging at a restaurant, I never make it at home. I'm trying to get into sardines, though.
Let me know how and when you get into those sardines. Either people love them or hate them. I
Yeah,
I just don't know about that.
I'm experimenting with smoked sardines, and I
Okay.
add them to my tuna salad.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah, that
That's a really
helps.
good idea.
So,
So, top 10 HDL building foods. And I
if
see
you
fish on there.
if you
Good
talk to
place to
10
start.
experts, you'll get 10 different answers, but here's ours. So
Okay.
beets, a personal favorite. I have beets every week. Eggplant, red cabbage, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, olive oil, fatty fish, red bell peppers, and dark chocolate.
And I know that weren't we supposed to, and I missed that, the changing the bell peppers to edamame?
No, no,
We
that
were,
was on the next slide, I think.
okay,
But
just making
but yeah,
sure.
there's many more than we could have made a top 100 list for HDL building
There
foods.
we are. Okay, phew. I was concerned that maybe I didn't make the change, but there we go. Here we are. There's the edamame.
Yeah, so omega-3 options. So we were talking about how valuable it is to eat omega-3 containing foods. And so other than fish and shellfish, these are our top picks. So it's mostly seeds or seed oil or oils from freshly pressed from a specific subset of seeds. So flax seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds. There's a type of seed called perilla or
Oh,
perea, I'm not sure, but the oil has a lot of omega-3 in it. Maybe you know more about it than I do. And then nuts, especially walnuts, and edamame are our top 6 choices for vegan omega-3.
my favorite new treat is a fig. I open it up, put a walnut in it, and
Mm,
I drizzle some, I heat up a little bit of olive oil, the early harvest, hand-picked,
yeah.
extra virgin, cold pressed olive oil, really good stuff. Little bit of that. with high flavanol cocoa powder
Mm.
or cacao powder, and I just then drizzle it on top of the fig with the walnut inside, and it's so good. You can even freeze it, and it just hardens that chocolate right there on top, and it's so
That sounds
delicious.
amazing. I would love that. Yeah. All right. So, in conclusion, understanding and measuring your blood fats helps you manage and optimize your artery health. Nearly all blood fats are within your control through diet, lifestyle, supplements, and medication. Aggressively managing these numbers can make the difference between ongoing artery damage or not. So this matters the most, of course, if you already have diagnosed artery disease or cardiovascular disease, but it's also important if you're aiming to prevent those things. And so thank you for the opportunity to have this in-depth conversation so that we can all speak more sophisticatedly about different types of fat in the blood.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Dansinger. If anyone in our live in studio audience has any questions for Dr. Dansinger on cholesterol, this is the topic we have every single week. We are just taking a different module in our Food for Thought book. You can get the Food for Thought book on Amazon. It's $20. It costs us like $18.75 to get it printed. So we're really not making any money off of it, but you can get it there, get the hard copy. We also have free digital copies. Just go ahead and email us at info@padhelp.org. And fairly soon, all of these modules, once we're done with them, they will be available for a certificate program. And there will be a quiz after each one. You watch a module, we'll send you a quiz. You pass the quiz, and I think there are more than a dozen modules. You're going to learn everything you need to know about your pad diet, and give you some information that you're able to have a better discussion with your doctor, and you'll be able to bring in a certificate to say, hey, I took time to learn about eating better for my PAD to help improve my prognosis. So stay tuned for that. You can email again, info@padhelp.org. We'll get you more information on that, get you signed up on the waiting list. But thank you, Dr. Dansinger. We'll see everyone next week. What is the topic next week? Is that exposing the risks?
I can't recall.
I believe it is. I think we're going to be talking about blood tests. It's either next week or the week after, but join us next week. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to our channel. I know it's already up on our YouTube channel right now under live, so you can check it out. You can actually go on there, see what's next, hit the notify button, and it'll remind you of next week's show. But thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you again, Dr. Dansinger, for being here with us every single week and helping us to learn about how to live a better quality of life.